Hello everybody and welcome back to Certified Collectibles. This is another episode of First Appearance of the Week. This is Wednesday, September 17th, 2025. We'll be giving you all the first appearance in your comic shops today. Now this week we got a pretty good lineup for you guys. I think we have 5 first appearances, 3 honorable mentions, so 8 titles on to go through. There's definitely some books there you guys should pick up for your collection. So let's go ahead and get started for the first appearance of the week beginning September 19th, 2025. First up from DC Comics, Batman Second Night #1. This features the first appearance of the Hangman, a henchman of the Scarecrow. Now this year is going to be a 3-issue limited series that explores the early days of Batman through a modern lens. Now, like we always tell you guys with DC Comics, really depends on what DC does with these characters they're introducing in comics, as how important they're going to be in the future, how collectible they're going to be, and how desirable they're going to be in a future date. Now, like I always remind you guys, DC doesn't have the cinematic power that Marvel Disney has, so to get a lot of public attention for these characters, DC really has to rely on good storytelling and word of mouth. This here Batman Second Night title series, this here is of course a spin-off series. This is not one of DC's mainstay title series. So really don't know how this will perform long term. Some of these spin-off Batman titles, like Absolute Batman, for instance, they're incredibly popular, hugely successful, very collectible. So we really don't know until the future how popular these spin-off series are going to be. This here is the premiere issue of this Batman Second Night title series, and this does have a first appearance of a new character. So this one here does have a few things going for it, so it may be worth picking up the spec on, because like I said before, it really depends on what DC does with these characters they're introducing as to how popular they'll be in the future. So this one here is definitely going to be speculative. Maybe worth a spec at the cover price though. Grab this here for a spec if you can. Next up from Marvel Comics, Deadpool Batman #1. This features the first appearance of Logo, a mashup of Wolverine and Lobo. Now this here is an anthology of Marvel and DC crossover stories featuring 2 character team-ups from each universe. These will be Deadpool and Batman, Doctor Strange and John Constantine, Laura Kinney and Nightwing, Hulk and Harley Quinn, and Miss Marvel and Static. Now this one here is going to be an interesting one because first of all, this is an anthology of stories, and secondly, these are crossover stories of Marvel and DC characters. So this one here, we really don't know what to think about this. This here is going to be either really popular with fans, or fans aren't going to really care for this. This does have the first appearance of this new character, Logo, which is a mashup of Wolverine and Lobo, so I really don't know who's going to own the rights to that character. So this one here is definitely going to be speculative. Maybe we're specking on the cover price though, because this here is kind of an oddity, like I said. It's a crossover of Marvel and DC characters, so it's either going to appeal to both fan bases, Marvel and DC, or it's going to appeal to none. So this one here, definitely speculative, but like I said, for the cover price, maybe worth picking up. Grab this here for a spec if you can. Next up from Marvel Comics, Deadpool Wolverine #9. This features the first appearance of Legacy 2.0 powered Wolverine. This is according to the solicitation of issue #9 in the catalog. Once again, this here is going to be a little speculative. We typically recommend picking up the first appearance of new characters in Marvel titles, but this here is the first appearance of this Legacy 2.0 power Wolverine. Don't really know what they plan on doing with that character in the future. If this character just stays in this particular title series or this particular story arc, then I really don't know how popular that character is going to be in the future. But Marvel Disney have incredible cinematic power. If they bring that character to a small screen, big screen project, that's going to be a big deal. Collectors will race back and try to find this first appearance. But, like I said, this here is some sort of Legacy 2.0 power Wolverine. Don't really know the impact of this character in the overall Marvel Universe, or even within this particular title series. So this one here is going to be a little bit more speculative, but like we always say, typically worth picking up the first appearance of new characters in Marvel titles anyway. So for $3 or $4, probably worth picking up. So grab this here for a spec if you can. If you can't, put it in your B-list, but keep an eye on this one. Next up from Image Comics, Spawn: The Curse of Shirley Johnson #3. This features the first appearance of a new Hellspawn. Now, like we mentioned in previous videos, the Spawn franchise, or the Spawn universe, this has definitely gained a lot of fans and collectors over the past few years. McFarlane's done a great job of expanding that universe, bringing a lot more titles, bringing in a lot more characters, and definitely increasing the fan base and collector base. This year's Spawn: The Curse of Shirley Johnson title series, this is definitely an offshoot title or B-series for this universe, so really don't know how popular this particular title series is, but like I said, there is the first appearance of this new Hellspawn, and that character does have a fan base and collector base. So it probably doesn't really matter the title series they're introducing that character into. Like I said, Hellspawn does have a fan base. So they are bringing it into this Curse of Shirley Johnson title series. But like I said, the series probably won't matter. The fact that this here is the first appearance of a new Hellspawn, that is what matters. So this one here, in my opinion, is probably worth picking up if you're into the Spawn universe or the Spawn franchise. This one here will probably be important later on. Like I said, Hellspawn is an important character. So if you are into the Spawn franchise, definitely pick this one here up for your collection. And finally from IDW, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Casey Jones #1. This features the first appearance of Ludovic, an antagonist of Casey Jones. Now this here is of course a spin-off title series of the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle title, and this here is the premiere issue of this Casey Jones title. Like I always tell you guys, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, that franchise, hugely popular. Huge fan base, huge collector base still to this day, probably just as strong today as it was back in the 90s. So anytime they introduce a new character into that universe, into that franchise, these are books you typically want to own. If these characters go big, fans and collectors love these characters, this book is going to blow up. If it goes nowhere, you're out a few dollars. In my opinion, this one here, the risk is definitely worth the reward. Like I always tell you guys, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, incredibly popular, incredibly strong. Anytime they introduce a new character, you do want to own these books at the cover price. This is one we do think you should pick up for your collection. Go ahead and grab this one. And now from the honorable mentions. From Image Comics, Invincible Universe Battle Beast #5. This features the origin of Prince Salaka. Now I mentioned this in previous videos. This Invincible Universe is of course based on the original Invincible franchise, and that has a huge fan base and a huge collector base. I really don't know how many of those fans and collectors follow this Battle Beast title series, but this title series has popped up in our recommendations more than once, so there may be something to this particular title series. Like I said, this here is part of the Invincible Universe. That universe or that original title series does have a huge fan base and collector base. How many of those fans are collecting this title series? We really don't know. And this one here does feature the origin story. This is not a first appearance. Origin stories, like I mentioned before, aren't necessarily as popular today in today's market as first appearances. In the future, if people go after the origin stories again, you definitely want to be one of the few people that own these. But if we continue into the future the same way we are today, where most fans and collectors just care about their first appearances, then this one here probably won't be all that important. This one here is definitely going to be speculative, because you are specking on this title series having some importance in the future, this origin story being popular in the future, and this character himself, Prince Salaka, having some importance in the future. If none of those factors pan out, this one here will go nowhere. But if they do though, this could be a big winner. So this one here is definitely going to be speculative. Pick this up for a spec if you can. If you can't, put it in your B-list and take a look at it later on. Next up from Image Comics, No Man's Land #1. In 1963, when a young woman's body is found on the ice curtain, a frozen path between the Diamond Islands that connects the US and the Soviet Union for just 3 months every year, an FBI agent and a KGB operative must solve the murder before the ice melts and nuclear war erupts. Now this one here definitely sounds like it can lend itself to a small screen, big screen project, and like I mentioned to you guys before, Image Comics has had a lot of their titles picked up an option in the past. Just being option alone is enough typically to drive the price. These typically don't even have to make it to the screen to kick up the price in the secondary market. This one here, the fact that it kind of re-examines the tensions between the US and the Soviet Union back in the 60s, sounds like a great candidate for a streaming series. And like I mentioned before, Image Comics has had some titles picked up in the past. So this one here is going to be speculative, because you are speculating on this getting picked up an option. If it does, that'll probably drive up the price in the secondary market. If it doesn't, it'll probably go nowhere. So once again, you are risking a few dollars here, but oftentimes with these small person publishers, the risk is worth the reward on these. In my opinion, this is a great spec. Grab this here for a spec if you can. If you can't, put in your B-list and take a look at it later on. And finally from Dark Horse, Space Scouts #1. A teenage girl enters a glitzy interstellar reality show to become a space scout, only to discover too late that the prize is a one-way ticket to a brutal secret war at the edge of the universe. Now this one here sounds like it can easily lend itself to a small screen, big screen project. This story actually sounds pretty cool. This is one I wouldn't mind seeing made into a feature film. And just like Image Comics, Dark Horse has had a lot of their titles picked up an option in the past. So this one here is going to be speculative, because you are specking on this getting option, get a lot more eyes on this title series, and getting collectors to race back to the secondary market to find this book. If this doesn't get option, it may go nowhere, but once again, the risk is probably worth the reward. Like I mentioned to you guys before, I love the spec on these small press and indie publishers, because a lot of people don't pick these up off the shelf when they first come out. And if you're one of the few people that own these, if these books go big, they go really big. There's typically a parabolic move because there's not a lot of them on the market. So once again, we'll be speculative. My opinion, it's definitely worth a spec. Grab this here for a spec if you can. So there you have the 8 titles we have for you guys this week. There's definitely some books in there you guys should pick up for your collection. So please feel free to drop some comments in the comment section below. Thumbs up if you like this video. And as always, please remember to subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. Thank you for joining us here at Certified Collectibles, and we'll see you again next time.